Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear students, this is lecture 6. This is going to be the last lecture in this chapter, the chapter that talks about the consonants of English. If you remember last time, we started talking about approximant sounds, or what do we call them sometimes, gliding sounds. We talked about wa and ya. Today it's time to talk about the sound ra. This is actually a different sound from the other two glidings, wa and ya. It's produced when the tongue takes a curved position and the tongue tip points to, listen, points to. There is no contact, but there is the tip of the tongue is raised to point to, rather than to be in touch or in contact, neither partial nor complete contact, with the hard palate at the back of the alveolar ridge. So the tongue will be pointed to the area between the end of the alveolar ridge and the beginning of the hard palate. There is no friction because the tip is not close enough to the palate. The lips take a rounded position, especially when the ra sound is at the beginning of the syllable. Okay, so this lips rounding helps you pronounce the sound in a native-like way. The soft palate is raised and the nasal cavity is closed. It means that ra is an oral sound. It is not a nasal sound. If we try actually to find the figure in that is in your book, in your textbook, it's going to be figure 24, page 60. So let's quickly find it out here. Okay, I think we are almost there. Yes, this is the figure that shows the pronunciation of ra sound. As you can see, the soft palate is raised, so the nasal cavity is closed. The air cannot go out through the nasal cavity. Here, the tip of the tongue is raised to be close, but not close enough to make a contact with the hard palate. This is the area is here, the end of the alveolar ridge and the beginning of the hard palate. Okay, there is pointing rather than contact. This is how to make the sound ra, and you can see that the tongue is curved. It يعني ياخذ شكل منحني, curved. And the lips, which is not here clear by the way, but make sure that your lips are rounded. That's why you can pronounce the sound like this, ra, ra, ra. Make sure that the tongue takes this position and the curved position, shape. The lips are rounded, the soft palate is raised. Okay? So the description of the sound ra is called gliding or approximant. Why? Because the two articulators here, the tip of the tongue and the palate, approximate each other, but there is no contact. It's palatal or palato-alveolar, post-alveolar. All of them are referred to the same sound, which is ra sound. Ra sound is palatal, post-alveolar. Why? Because as we have just seen, the tip of the tongue points to the palate, to the area behind the end of the alveolar ridge and the beginning of the hard palate. That's why we call it palatal. It's not alveolar. If we have an alveolar sound, the tongue will be here. Okay, but and this is not palatal. Velar, because the tongue will be here. But if the tongue is here in the middle, it is palatal. Okay, is it voiced or voiceless? You can check by yourself. You put your fingers on the side of your neck and say ra, r, 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 r. You can make sure that this is a voiced sound because there is vibration in the vocal cords. Now there are cases or ways to pronounce the sound ra which are to be avoided. Here we are explaining it in order for you to avoid them. Don't pronounce ra in one of these forms or cases. We have the rolled ra. The rolled ra. What is the rolled ra? Rolled ra means that the tongue taps against the alveolar ridge quickly for several times. It is very similar to the ra we have in Arabic. In Arabic, in colloquial Arabic, we say r, r, r. You can feel that the tongue tip is tapping, يضرب, the alveolar ridge more than once and continuously, quickly. R, r. This is not the correct ra in English. Here, what's happening is that actually we are raising the tongue more than required so that there is a contact between the tip of the tongue and the palate, and this contact is what is just like in the way of tapping, clicking, if you like. You click and go back, click and go back, click and go back. That's how you have r, r. This is incorrect. The tongue is raised more than required so that a click will happen between the tip of the tongue and the hard palate. This click is going to be continuous and quick so that we have more than one ra. In Arabic we call it الراء المرعدة or الراء المكررة, which is also not correct to pronounce, especially when you are reciting the Holy Quran. You cannot say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is also not acceptable in the recitation of Quran. So this is not correct, and you should avoid it. You should not pronounce ra in this way. It is ra, ra, ra. Okay? The second mistake we make often when we pronounce the sound ra is that the tongue is not close enough to the ridge. Instead, the back of the tongue taps against the soft palate. So, the second wrong pronunciation of ra is that the tip of the tongue is lowered. It's going to be lowered. At the same time, the back of the tongue will be raised. In this case, we will have a sound like wa, wa. So instead of saying read, we say weed, weed. This is not correct. This is not a ra sound. This is a wa sound. So r is not acceptable and ur is not acceptable. The first one takes place because the tongue is raised more than required. And the second one, the ur, is pronounced or results from having the tongue lowered, much lowered than required. The third type of ra that we should avoid in English is that, when in pronouncing English ra, is the French one, Also, in this case, the back of the tongue is raised, and the sound is going to be just like the sound we have in French. Merci, merci, mer. It's not it's not o, it's not it should be ra. So these three ways of pronouncing the ra sound should be avoided as much as possible. And actually this sound requires you to practice a lot in order to master the native-like pronunciation of this sound. Between vowels, ra is produced without lips rounding. So we say red with lip rounding, but we say very without rounding the lips, because this is in the middle between two vowels. Okay? The distribution of ra, let's first state simply that in RP English, ra is not pronounced before consonants, while it is pronounced before vowels. So this only applies to RP, because in some other accents like General American English, Scottish English, the ra is pronounced everywhere. But in RP English, I mean sometimes called British English, the ra sound has limitations. What is this limitation? This limitation is that do not pronounce the sound ra when it is before consonants. Just like recent, ring. Here we pronounce it because it is before vowels. But here in learn and farm, fa, we do not pronounce it because it is after a vowel. It is after a vowel. Okay, sorry, before a vowel. It is after a vowel. Yeah, it is after a vowel. That's why it is after a vowel, before a consonant. That's why we cannot pronounce it. Now I'm going to make it in a more technical way, and I think it's going to be easier for you to state if we have ra or we don't have it. Let's make use of the syllable structure. And we say, if ra is found under the onset, it is pronounced. While if it is under the coda, it is not pronounced. It is not pronounced. Example, straighter, straighter. Here, the ra is pronounced. Why? Because it is under the onset. The sa, ta, ra are all onsets for the vowel a. While ra is a coda, it's after the vowel. That's why we do not pronounce it. Straighter, straighter. Again, if the ra is under the onset before the vowel, it is pronounced. If it is under the coda after the vowel, it's not pronounced. In other varieties of English, such as American English, ra is pronounced in all positions, as I said. Now, read, ra is the onset, e is the nucleus, da is the coda. So where is the ra sound? It is here. Do we pronounce it? Of course, we say read, read. Better, ba is the onset, a is the nucleus, ta is the onset of the second syllable, the schwa, then we have ra letter. Do we pronounce this ra letter? No, because it is after the vowel under the coda. Now we have two important forms of ra sound. We have linking ra and we have intrusive ra. The rule says, as I have just explained, that in RP English, the sound ra is not pronounced in final position. I mean after the vowel under the coda. Not pronounced. But sometimes we need to pronounce it to make the pronunciation easier. When is that? Ra is or can be pronounced when it is under the coda if it is followed by a word that starts with a vowel. In this case, we have a vowel, we have the ra sound in final position, then we have another word, a following word, that starts with a vowel. In this case, what will happen? The ra will be pronounced, and this is called linking ra. Example, sister, sister. This word is pronounced with non-final ra. Why? Because in British English, ra sound is not pronounced under the coda in final position after the vowel. Okay? But if sister is followed by is in a sentence like my sister is a teacher. My sister is a teacher. Okay? In this case, the ra sound will be pronounced. Why? Because there is a vowel before it and a vowel after it. It is pronounced because it is followed by a vowel. Okay? The linking ra makes the pronunciation easier. Not all native speakers, by the way, pronounce it, but it's good to do it. It makes the pronunciation easier. And it is important to know about it so that when someone speaks with linking ra, you do not get confused. Okay, you already know it. The intrusive ra, on the other hand, the sound ra is pronounced in final position when there is a word ending with a vowel and the second word starts with a vowel. So we have vowel plus vowel. In this case, the ra is inserted, if you like. Inserted. And this word inserted means something. I'm going to explain it. Look at the example. Asia and Africa. Asia and Africa. In this context, when the first word ends with a vowel, this is a vowel, and the second word starts with a vowel, here what do we have? We have two vowels, one after the other. The ra is inserted, and the pronunciation becomes Asian Africa, Asian Africa, Asian Africa. So, why do we call this inserted or intrusive, and the other one is linking? Here, linking ra is found in the spelling. If we go back to the word sister, there is ra letter, and this ra, if the word is pronounced alone, is not pronounced. But when the word is followed by a word with a vowel that starts with a vowel, this is pronounced. So the ra is found in the spelling. While in intrusive ra, like Asia and Africa, there is no ra in the spelling. That's why we call it intrusive, dakhil, muqham. It is inserted. Okay? So the difference between intrusive ra and linking ra is that in intrusive ra, there is no ra in the spelling. There is no letter in the spelling. While in linking ra, there is ra in the spelling. But in both cases, we have a context of vowel plus vowel. That's why the ra is needed to make the pronunciation easier. In Arabic, we have Resound, as I have mentioned some minutes ago. And in accents of Arabic, just like Iraqi Arabic, we have the Resound. But you need to pay attention how to pronounce it. It's not r, it's not o, it's not agh. Okay? It should be ra, ra, ra. And I think that there is no possibility of mixing or confusing the sound ra with any other vowel or with any other sound, as it is the case, for example, in Japanese. In Japanese, they always have problems pronouncing ra and distinguishing it from le sound, for example. In Arabic, we don't have such problem. The last point, when we have aspirated sound and a following ra, the ra will be devoiced, like prank, prank. Pa is a stop at the beginning, voiced is so that it's aspirated, and the following ra will be devoiced. Drink, the da is stop, correct beginning, but it is voiced. There is no aspiration here, no aspiration. So there is no devoicing, while here we have aspiration. So here we have devoicing of ra, here we don't have devoicing for ra. Okay? Thank you very much for listening. Next time, inshallah, we will start talking about consonant sequences.